Hello?
Hello?
Are you my mommy? So,
Hey, who turned out the lights?
so growing up, what was like your what were you allowed any media consumption at all?
Nice. Um, I remember. I remember we watched like some classic movies, not like a ton of them. Yeah, we would like watch DVDs, of some various things. I didn't watch Star Wars till I was like in middle school. I don't know. I felt old. I was like, I feel like people already know about this.
Like where in middle school though?
Oh,
Like
so
6th grade or 8th grade or like
I guess the
I don't
easiest
mean
context for
physically where. I don't mean
anyone watching or
physically.
listening, the easiest like I remember seeing on like the theater marquee when Revenge of the Sith was in the theater, and I had not seen any Star Wars at that point.
Oh, because Revenge of the Sith
So it was after
was
2005, and that's like all
episode
I can
1,
really.
right?
No, that's episode 3, 2005, the last of the
Okay.
prequels.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
it's the last of the prequels. Okay.
So it was after that.
Wow. That's crazy.
But
Not
yeah,
crazy, but not crazy, but okay,
we didn't
interesting.
we didn't watch like a lot of movies or TV, at least from my perspective.
Okay.
It depends on who you ask, I suppose. We definitely watched a lot of like that Me TV. Like we watched a ton of like it was like one of like the over the air like TV channels that just was reruns of like 60s television.
Oh,
So like
interesting. Okay.
yeah, like I Love Lucy, and we watched like Hogan's Heroes and MacGyver and
Okay, so
the
almost
show called
like
Wild Wild West.
okay, so like Nick
Some
at
old school
Night,
stuff.
but it was over the air for free, basically.
Yeah, it was like
Yeah. Okay.
stuff my parents grew up on. They're like, "Oh, that show's great," and they were great.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure.
Some good
That's
stuff.
the kind of stuff I watch too. I was just curious.
Yeah.
What was there any like? I asked because like your media collection is so huge. Like your Plex library is huge, and I just kind of wonder where that comes from. Like, is that just it's just because of kind of who you are and you enjoy media, or like
It's because of who I've become, I think,
sure.
more than like
Do you
how I
think
was
that?
raised.
Do you think it has anything to do with like the fact that you didn't get to just basically like watch really anything at all when you were younger? Because like for me, I knew that there were definitely like things that my mom didn't want me to watch, right? And mostly because it was like, well, you're the older brother, you know, you have younger siblings, blah blah blah.
Yeah,
But also just
that's true. I'm
there
also
was
the
the whole
oldest.
like satanic panic at one point.
No, I didn't deal with any of that. I think it was like less like it was less like you're not allowed to watch these things. I don't remember a lot of those conversations, and it was a lot more of just like I didn't know what I was missing out on. So it was more just like ignorance, I think.
Sure. Yeah. So your family just like prioritized more like other activities and stuff, basically.
Yeah, we just like weren't sitting for the TV. We didn't have a game console. We did have a bunch of like we had a lot of PCs. We'd play games on PCs. A lot of RTS, Age of Empires, things like that. Star Wars games.
Yeah.
We were into Star Wars. But yeah, yeah, see like as I got older and stuff, I was like pushing more for like, hey, like my friends want to watch this. I guess I have to ask, like, is that cool? Like,
yeah.
And I was like, so basically, as an adult or as a young person growing into adult, I feel that I've been very much driven by like retrospective nostalgia or retrospective FOMO. I think
Sure.
that like kind of like kickstarted a lot of it. It was just like there's all these things that I like know are like the backbone of pop culture, and I feel it's important to like be able to relate to those things in conversation because like pop culture is like one of the most like social aspects of the human experience is like relating to things that you grew up on or that are from a time period that you share. So
yeah. I mean,
It's super important to me.
yeah. Well, and like just a little bit on that too. That's the reason that like my friends in Wayland have a song called Indiana Jones. It's like blowing up right now because it's all about nostalgia. And the whole song is
Mm,
like the first line of the song. I remember watching MTV, Reese's Pieces, and ET. It's a song about like the 80s and like all that. So
it's
yeah,
awesome.
for sure. Definitely a like a cornerstone of the human experience, if you want to call it that, I guess. But yeah,
Yeah.
or what it means to be a normal person.
Yeah. I love that.
But so yeah, that's cool. That's cool.
Yeah, I've actually been
Um,
thinking about that topic recently. Like, I think like it started from like FOMO, and then like at some point, I just started like getting really into like the movie making process and behind the scenes and BTS and all the pieces and parts that like make up filmmaking, and
yeah,
I've just like really become like a film head. Like I don't like no one else in my family like really cares about movies the way I do, and that's fine. I'm into it, and I have like friends who are like filmmakers, and I like kind of shoot and help out with stuff myself. So I appreciate all those aspects of what goes into the process. So
sure. Yeah, yeah. I yeah, I did. I've done my like my exposure to making films has been very limited, but I don't know. I feel like the technology is finally is catching up to the point where it's easy enough to do this that it's not frustrating for me anymore. Video has
mm,
always been something I hated because it was just like it's so much work and you're waiting on rendering forever. And you do like even like my first MacBook that I bought, it was like I just spent $3,000 on this thing and I like change one thing and I've got to wait 5 minutes for a frame to render and like I just hated it, right? So the fact that it's a little more instant now, like music making always has been, is um is really great. So
mm, yeah,
yeah, I just relate with that in that way. Um so hey everybody, this is a show about Godzilla movies and it's about Godzilla movies. I'm Caleb. This is Bryan. Uh we we go way back. We've known each other for a while.
yeah,
I yeah. Bryan has a very large media collection that he is yeah, it's just really great. And we've been talking about movies lately a little bit in text and then like Godzilla came
yeah,
up as a topic and um I've been watching I started watching like late 70s, early 80s Godzilla movies with my daughter Evie. She's like 10 months old or so. And like just
start them right.
in the morning or at night as she is like in the morning as we're waking up, first bottle, change her diaper, just like, chill out and watch something on the TV. And then at night, there just kind of hits a point in the night where it's not time for bed, but
It's Godzilla time.
she's done playing. She's done, just wants to like sit. So yeah,
Mm,
we started watching old Godzilla movies, and that's kind of what kicked this off for me. Well, and then I found out that you had never seen one at all. Um,
yeah,
and
I've seen I've seen the 2014 movie. That's the only one I've seen. That was like a
okay,
one-off theater
is
viewing.
so
But that's it.
2014. That's the like the Legendary Pictures, the one that they've
Mm,
like tied in with Kong now and stuff.
I think so.
Or okay,
Though I haven't seen any of those movies after.
sure.
Um,
Yes, that
the
one.
Aaron
Yeah, yeah.
Taylor
With
Johnson.
Brian, yeah,
It's Gareth Edwards.
the one that has like Bryan Cranston for 30 seconds.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I was okay, so as long as we're gonna for 2 seconds, dude, like
Should I
talk
talk about like
about
my first impressions of that, or
well, we'll get to that, but
all
like
right?
talk about I just remember for that film, all of the trailers had Bryan Cranston, it's the dude for Breaking Bad, dude. And then spoiler alert, they killed him 2 minutes into the movie. Like so stupid. I still think that's stupid. Anyways, So yeah, it came up that Bryan had never really seen these, and he's got this collection of them all on his Plex, and so it sparked this idea in my head of just like, hey, let's watch these. You've never seen them. I grew up watching them. Like I think I saw the American Godzilla King of the Monsters, which is one of the ones we're going to talk about today. I saw that when I was like 7, probably.
Okay, so you saw that first.
Yeah. It was the very first one I saw, and it was one of those like it was on TV, and my dad had just caught the start of it, kind of deal, and was like, "Oh man, like oh, it's Godzilla," you know. So and just went from there. Put my other phone on silent. So yeah, today we're gonna. So that's what the show is. I've seen every Godzilla movie, at least 4 times. Some of them and my favorites I've seen like so many times. You now have seen 3 films total. 2 of them are the same thing but different. Same, but
right.
Different. Same. What is that from?
Which I like. Just same favorite.
Same, but different. Dang it. Haley's going to be upset with me. What is that from?
Is it a reference or something?
Yeah, it's from a movie. Same.
It sounds. Googling it.
Just.
Who can Google faster?
Well, I thought Spotlight was going to be my friend. And it's not. I don't know. Whatever. Anyways, we'll cut that out. No, we won't, because that's how this show works. We don't edit anything. We don't edit for content.
It might be from the interview.
Oh, it totally is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Same, but different.
Thanks, Google.
Yeah, dude. Okay.
I need to rewatch that. What a controversial film.
Do you think that do you remember when that movie was about to come out and they were all like, it leaked and South Korea's pissed and blah blah blah? Do you think that was real or a marketing stunt?
I think
do you remember what I'm talking about?
Oh yeah. I do think it was real.
I'm not convinced. I don't know. Anyways.
No. Oh.
So,
all right.
Godzilla, the movie. Yeah. Godzilla came out in 1954. If you're listening to this and you've never seen it, how did you get here? Is it because you know me? Is it because you know Bryan?
That's probably likely.
If this is where you're starting, I'm sorry. Gosh, I made that joke on my other show. I can't do that here. I made that joke on the first episode too. So
if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
So Godzilla.
Yeah, if you're listening to this, you might want to watch the movie because it's great. You don't have to watch any other ones. You can just watch that one
right off the bat. Right off the bat, he said it's great. So yeah, let's start with. I'm not even gonna. I don't feel the need to do like a recap of the movie or nothing. Let's just go from here. Here is the spoiler bell. Everything from here on out is spoilers of Godzilla and Godzilla King of the Monsters. So I want to talk about the 1954 Godzilla, and like don't even pretend the 56 one exists, and then I want to talk about that one.
Yeah, totally.
Cool. So yeah, go for it. First thoughts.
Okay. I actually wrote a little review, but
well, do it. Yeah, if that's where you want to. Hey, this is your show, man. I'm just because
brained. So what I did is I watched it, and then I was
with your eyes,
with my eyes,
and your brain.
The film. I did,
and your mind.
Yes, I was fully engaged. And then I just brain dumped all my thoughts into a voice memo, just so that I could capture that moment. And then I wrote a little review on Letterboxd because I like doing those kinds of things. But yeah,
is it Letterboxd or Letterboxd?
I say Letterboxd.
I don't know. I'm sorry.
I mean, it's
keep going. Keep going.
One of those film terms. Those filmy things.
So yeah, I don't keep up on the trades. Sorry.
Yeah, so I guess it's what I expected and also not what I expected, I
Hmm.
guess. So like I expected it to be very cool. I expected the practical special effects to be really well done.
Really?
Um, I expected it to be serious, which it kind of was. Um, yeah. What I didn't expect sort of the somber tone throughout a lot of it. Um, I didn't expect like the very real sort of like reflection on like a post World War II Japan. Like some of the references to like they reference the two characters reference Hiroshima briefly, like barely escaping that, and they're talking about kind of like the H bomb tests, and it makes it feel like a historical thing that happened rather than like a fictional movie. Even though like we all know that it's fictional, but it really kind of grounds it a bit.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, dude, just even from like the first like roar, just like that sound, I was like, holy cow, dude! Like, what is that sound? That is so original. And like we're talking like this is like a mono mix. There's only like one channel of audio, and it still just like freaking rips.
Yeah, it's huge.
Yeah, um, yeah. The like the combo of like sort of like the guy walking around in a suit and like the way that was like integrated together like was really well done. The design of it, again, I've only like seen one modern Godzilla movie, but like I really like kind of like the bumpy, scaly, like kind of brokenness. It's like the look of it. Um, very cool. Um, like most of the film, like, you don't really see the eyes a whole lot, and I like that. There'd be moments where there's like almost like a little glint. It almost looks like, like they put like some like as if there were like some marbles for eyes, and like the light just catches it in a certain moment, like an
Hmm.
obsidian marble for an eye or something like that. And then you get some close-ups where like they look a little more like googly eyes. Like there's a brief moment where I'm like, I don't know if that was the play, but from a distance, like it looks a lot cooler, I think.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, yeah, I was honestly the whole film, like the biggest things that I was loving was just all like the miniature work. Like they had to have built so much. I actually was planning on like researching like the budget a little bit because I'm like how expensive was it to make this film? Because I feel like half the movie was miniatures, like, and it was just so well done. Even like the water work, just things to destroy, obviously.
yeah,
But then they were like combining shots really nicely with like actual human actors, and it's like really seamless. It seems pretty obvious they were like doing like rear projected footage, like some of those shots,
yeah.
where
And
they
this
can
is
where they
like this
can
is
like
19 like the early 1950s. They're shooting this. Like they started it
yeah,
in 1953, 52, like late
yeah,
1952. Like,
yeah. There's like I don't know. There's a lot of like rear projected footage in like all kinds of films from that era, even like American films, where they just like pre-shoot the footage and they play it back, and then they shoot like the second element in front of it. You see that a
mhm.
lot with like driving cars and things.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
some
for
of those
sure.
old like Hitchcocks and Bonds and things. It's like
Yeah.
very classic, but
Yeah,
that
but
always looked
to
was
see them
really
do
well
it in a
done.
way where it was like the people, like the
Mm-hmm.
size difference looked
Where you just see like the foot
real-ish.
of Godzilla in
Right.
front of like these guys hiding behind like a chunk of concrete or something.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, yeah.
that was really cool. But yeah, it was just
Um,
like it was way more somber than I thought it was going to be. Um, some of that music was just like really beautiful. B
yeah.
flat minor, like the whole movie ended on like a minor chord, B flat minor, like the end. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, all right,
Yeah.
that's serious.
I I'm interested to see what you think as we progress because okay, so what we planned on doing was watching all of these movies in order. But then you started asking questions about like, are we going to do the 1954 version and then like the American ones? Do they exist? Blah, blah, blah. And it
Yeah,
got me thinking about the way that like there are parts of the Godzilla story that have been retold multiple times, kind of like Spider-Man, kind of like, name
Batman's
a
parents, whatever.
right,
Yeah.
exactly. Batman, the origin, like the
Uncle
beginning of
Ben.
Batman has been done so many times, right? They've done that with Godzilla as well. A little bit further in that there are like even sequels and like, there's like a couple Mecha Godzilla films that got remade twice and all this kind of stuff. But it got me thinking about I'm very interested to see our reactions to this origin story of Godzilla and how they've wandered from the 50s version and then how they've come back and where they are.
Yeah.
Specifically Toho, because watching this again recently and like trying to intentionally think about specifically Shin Godzilla and now Godzilla minus one. And
Hmm.
like,
I've heard good things.
I'm excited to get there
Yeah.
because of how good this original movie is. Um, yeah.
Yeah.
And like you mentioned, the suit, they call it suitmation. And this was like nobody
Yeah.
had ever done that before. Godzilla was the first movie to do that. Like pretty
Yeah.
crazy.
They were thinking about doing stop motion, but they decided to try this instead. And I'm so glad they did. Like the slow movement in like the large scale looking up shots like really sells the weight and size. Like
Yeah.
it just really feels like a giant behemoth of a figure.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
was it, I mean, it's cool that you picked up on the post-war stuff. Um, because it was, I mean, Godzilla movies have always been a political like commentary kind of, or a social commentary, right?
Mm.
Um, and if you think about it, this movie came out like 10 years after the end of World War II, after the two nuclear bombings of Japan, all of the like air raids, and because there was bombings through all of Japan. They only used two nukes though, right? But like Tokyo got hit by like massive air raids, all kinds of stuff. And um and then Godzilla is supposed to be the result of Japan experimenting with hydrogen bombs, right? The H bomb.
Yeah.
Um,
It's a cool idea.
yeah, and just the like you called out, like the whole like bumpy skin, kind of broken. Like this is definitely something that was like harshly mutated, and like terrible things have been done to it, and it's now Mother Nature is retaliating basically against or because of this, and just kind of like the idea that Godzilla represents nuclear holocaust for Japan and was kind of like a way for these artists to say like, hey, we think that experimenting with nuclear bombs any further is a terrible idea and is going to lead to the end of the world, right? Which is an opinion held by most people still even today, or a lot of people still today, like 2023, right? Almost 2024. But yeah,
Yeah.
just they knew from the beginning that the theme of the movie had to be this like terror inducing, like kind of, just very somber, heavy feeling, like representation of something that could be, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a cool
I
representation
think,
of nuclear energy, and that is something that also like goes through the whole series. He's like nuclear energy and what to do about it and how to deal with Godzilla, and like not just like how do we get rid of him, but what is going to happen with nuclear. Is there going to be a fallout? Is there any kind of like radiation post from just him existing kind of deal? I think they even dealt with that in this movie a little bit. Like his footprints were radioactive on the on Odo Island, right?
yeah, when they're sampling it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think they really doubled down on some of that theming. They didn't explore like the conversation about, like using like a nuclear bomb or something as much as they could have, but I feel like they sort of, in an allegorical way, had that conversation with the scientist and like the thing that he invented, like the oxygen
Destroyer.
uh, Destroyer. Yeah,
Yeah.
like that whole conversation was even more serious, and like the gravity of like what have I created? I feel like that was almost more allegorical to like the atomic layers in the movie.
Yeah. And I think it's cool that they, and I like, this isn't a spoiler. It's just, it is what it is. Like that kind of thing is they stay that way through the majority of like, or almost all the Toho films where they never come out and say really like, up until actually, well, yeah, like it's always an allegory. It's always something. There's never really like an outright like it's the H bomb that did this kind of deal. But yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
very well made. Loved it. There's some there's some tough shots that were like really underexposed and like scratchy. Like it kind of made me wonder like where they were shooting and how they were shooting and why some of those pieces of film were so damaged. But I
mm,
couldn't find the information on that. Like some of like the at sea shots, especially like the opening shot with like ship on fire. It's like really dark and grungy, and it almost looks like they're trying to like layer maybe some different elements together, like fire on top of like some actual footage they shot. And I'm not sure. Maybe it's
oh
like
yeah,
doubly. It might have been like doubly exposed, and that's why it ended up dark or something that like didn't go as maybe they intended to. But
right.
it works, you know.
Yeah, for sure. For
It's
sure.
grungy.
Um, so you said that you thought the like the special effects and practical effects and stuff were really great.
Yeah,
Do you like when you say that, do you mean like for the era or just like in general? Like it was really cool to see what they were able to do like in the 50s or like even still today. Like I don't feel like a whole lot of this appears cheesy. And I wonder if it's that
I say for the era.
the black and white helps that a little bit, right? But anyways, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen other. I hate to use the word comping, but that's such like a digital modern term. But combining of like multiple elements together and like within one frame, like there's plenty of stuff like in the 50s and 60s where elements are being combined, and from a modern viewer, like it doesn't really work anymore. Like it's hard not to view it through like the modern lens. Or like that that looks cheesy, or that's dumb, or it's not really combined very well, or
Sure.
and this film just doesn't look that way. I I don't know. Like usually, like something looks overexposed or underexposed when you're combining, or like when you're shooting again and you are doing rear projection.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. Like I've seen
Well, and
other
it's
movies
crazy
that
to
work,
think
but
like, yeah, that made me think of.
really work.
I just had to Google when did Star Trek come out because you saying that made me think of the original like Star Trek from the '60s. It came out in
Yeah,
'66. Like, there's definitely stuff in there that is like, oh, they tried to multiple expose this or like lay
mhm.
some stuff over, and it just is like,
Very different, like
this is not
budget
cutting
whirl
it
as
right.
well. On like
Right. But
on a
even
series, yeah,
still, like a full another 10 years later, yeah, Star Trek had a very I got soy sauce all over my hand. Check that out. Uh um yeah, yeah, cool, cool. Um
Hmm.
yeah, dude. What I was thinking a little bit too. I was kind of doing some Googling here as I was getting ready and like I Googled what were the top movies in America um in well, I guess 1956, which is when Godzilla finally came out here in America. And it's like the number one movie the year 1956 is the Ten Commandments.
Hmm. With what's
Uh,
his name?
yeah, Wilford Brimley. I don't know what's his name.
No, it was,
Wilford Brimley. What's his face? Cecil. No. Oh, Charlton Heston.
yes, Heston.
Yul Brenner. Uh,
Well,
yeah. Just, I mean, that movie is like what, 10 hours long or something?
Oh, it's long. I haven't
Cost
watched
13
it.
million to make, made 122 million at the box office.
It won Oscars.
It won Oscars. It
Worth
won
it?
all. Yeah. But it's
Um,
like the Ten Commandments, around the world in 80 days. Giant, like no, yeah, I don't know, Seven Wonders of the World, The King and I, like just
Originally the King
no.
of Siam,
Oh,
I
really?
think.
Is that what it used to be called?
I think it was like one of those retitled things. Yeah.
Um, and I say all this because I thought it was going to like kind of help me bring up a good point here, but it doesn't really. But we'll keep moving on anyways. Do you have anything more to say about the 1954 version before we go on?
Yeah, not in terms of thoughts. I did find some trivia elements about the movie really interesting, which
Ooh,
maybe we could like talk about later. But
no, I mean,
um,
whatever. Let's do it now.
I mean, I'm just like reading off a screen, but
It's cool.
I was there's a lot of like trivia elements that are talking about like Kurosawa and like how much he loved the film. It's like one of his five favorite movies. He like introduced it to his daughter. He would come visit the set on the regular, and like I hold Kurosawa in a really like high regard. It's like probably one of the best Japanese filmmakers ever.
For those who
Um,
don't know,
yeah,
what are some films that?
he was most known for some oriented films. Seven Samurai is like the classic one. It's a classic tale of like a samurai gets some samurai together and they end up in this small town and defend the small town from some raiders. It's a long film. It's beautifully shot, beautifully choreographed, but more importantly, like that story archetype has been retold hundreds of times in like
Yep.
every media format since. It's like been an influence on everything. It's one of those archetypal films. But yes, his samurai films are like amazing. They're just so cool. Anyway, so I just thought it was cool, like making connections about people who are like contemporaries at the same time.
Yeah,
A
and
lot
like
of
what they so it's kind of cool to see what Kurosawa was into, right?
yeah,
Like
he
he
was
thought
just like
this was really
visiting the
cool. Like,
set and hanging out, and
yeah,
like he wanted to see what was going on, and
yeah,
obviously like different kind of film of the films he was making, but yeah, there's quite a few trivia elements about like the suit, like the Godzilla suit, like there's like up to 140 degrees Fahrenheit in there.
good night.
Like
So yeah, if you
he
didn't
literally
notice
put his
the
life on the line.
yeah, for real, like talk about it's disgusting.
Yeah,
If you're listening and again, if you've never seen a Godzilla movie, or maybe if you have and you just never knew, those literally up until every Godzilla movie up until 2016, Shin Godzilla was the first Toho produced Godzilla movie that did not have somebody in a suit at some point.
mm.
And every Godzilla movie employed like, yeah, miniatures and the whole like suit animation, literally. And most of the monsters are that way, except for like like Mothra. You can't have a dude in a Mothra suit flying around, but like Ghidorah, all of them as we get there are like dudes in suits. It's pretty crazy that
Yeah.
they, yeah.
Here's another one. Um, there's some water scenes. Um, maybe the aquarium stuff, but definitely like the end of the film that were filmed like dry for wet. Meaning they like put like water elements, like a tank between the camera and actors, and they're like doing acting like on the other side of the water.
So like when they're
You can get like
like towards
fish
the end of the
elements
film when they're
passing in
like
front. Yeah,
okay, like
yeah.
when they're supposed to be underwater carrying the H bomb or whatever, or
Mhm.
the oxygen destroyer bomb.
Yeah.
Okay, okay,
Not all of it, but like some of it.
some of it. That's
That's kind of cool.
crazy. Yeah.
It's like a play on like the term like day for night, which happens sometimes in films where they're like they'll shoot a night scene during the day time with like a lot of light control, and then like when they're like color grading it, they can make it look like it was shot at night through
Sure.
like a lot of editing. Similar, kind of cool. Um, I the most significant trivia that I remember reading in this, they storyboarded the entire film,
So
and
what does that mean? Because I've heard the term storyboarding, and I think I kind of think I understand it, but like
Yeah, so it means you write the scripts and like you have the dialogue and stuff, and then scene by scene, um, they looks like your camera turned off.
Yeah, I'm picking my nose a second.
Oh, that's fine. Um, so so storyboarding is kind of like the like finish the script and they have all the dialogue and stuff, and then like scene by scene they'll get like concept artists and like designers and things to kind of like frame by frame kind of like design what the scene is going to look like. So like traditionally that'd be like artists like doing drawings and things. But before the world of computers and stuff, it's like a way of like practically planning out how you're going to shoot everything. And so like they're building all these miniatures, so they kind of have to like plan how each scene is going to play out, and they're building a lot of miniatures of Tokyo at a certain scale, and so I'm sure that took like a ton of planning. It's like decide like what side is he coming from, and like what is he going to destroy, and in what order, and like so you can, because when you're combining all those elements, you have to know what order to shoot them in. And, like you need your footage of the thing to project in order to do the rear projection before you can get that shot, and like so you really have to like plan out the whole thing.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's speculative, but
man,
yeah,
that's crazy to think about. What continues to blow my mind is I think about all of this stuff and continue to like, this is 10 years after their entire nation was basically just like wiped out.
yeah, that is crazy.
And just yeah, I don't know. It's a theme in, I'm not giving anything away, but it's a theme in Godzilla -1 of just like the resilience of humanity, I guess, is one of the,
Hmm.
is a theme that they decide to touch on in that story. Um,
Yeah,
Sweet. Anything else?
11% of the entire Japanese population saw it during its first run.
Wow.
It's pretty good.
It's the,
Pretty well known.
I read earlier, it's like the eighth highest or like the eighth best release in Japanese film history or whatever. Like,
Definitely made money. Yeah, they went over budget, but there was I want to say one of these trivia items was like TOHO the studio, they had like 3 films come out within like a 3 or 4 year period. One of them being this film, the other being Seven Samurai. Interestingly enough,
oh, I didn't know Seven
and
Samurai
then
was a Toho film.
apparently,
That's cool.
um, but yeah, budget wise, they put out a lot of money in that period. Um, yeah, Seven Samurai actually came out the same year. I forgot about that. So Seven Samurai also came out in 1954, and a separate samurai film called Samurai One Musashi Miyamoto. I haven't seen that one. They all came out the same year.
Okay.
So it was an expensive year for them.
Yeah.
They all went over budget apparently, but I guess maybe this made up for it. They did well. So
Yeah. I'm reading a little bit right now about the director of this film, Ishiro Honda.
Sure.
It just, okay, so we've been in our super secret private text channel, we've been talking about shoot, how did this come up? We were talking about Shin Godzilla or something at some point, and it came up that one of the directors of Shin Godzilla was the same guy that did one of my favorite animes, Neon Genesis Evangelion. And
oh yeah, I remember you mentioned that.
they like that dude and this guy Ishiro Honda and a couple other guys are like just kind of like um they're in this group of like Japanese directors that like kind of just came up with a modern idea of like disaster films.
Hmm.
Not exactly like war, not exactly like
apocalypse
a
per se.
right or exactly, but just like these unstoppable things that just wreak havoc and test human nature, basically. This idea of, yeah,
Hmm.
oftentimes being the earth or mother nature or whatever you want to call it fighting back against humanity because we're doing things to the planet that we shouldn't be, which, you know, we could have a whole show on that. Anyways, yeah, I just think it's cool that Ashiro, he was kind of like known, like he was like the most internationally successful Japanese filmmaker
Hmm.
up until Miyazaki.
Yeah, that's fair.
And that's a bit like that's a long time because like Miyazaki didn't start stuff till like the 80s. So like 30 years or so, 40 years. This dude
Yeah.
was like the dude from Japan. And one of his
So
first films was this. He also has a movie called Frankenstein versus Baragon, which is wild because Baragon is a monster that Godzilla fights. So Frankenstein is like they supersize him somehow and he fights Baragon. And it's
interesting.
just it's stupid. Anyways.
Yeah. Great
Yeah.
film.
I learned recently too that like it's that same dude Ishiro Honda, he did Ultraman as well. It was the same, he's the same director.
Shin Ultraman?
Yeah. No, not
Yeah.
Shin Ultraman,
No.
Ultraman, the original,
The
like,
original? Okay.
yeah. So the Shin films are basically that dude that did Neon Genesis Evangelion and this other director. They took the first, like, they took three of Ishiro Honda's films and redid them and so that's why the Shin is in front of
Hmm.
those films. It's just the way they decided to name it, basically.
Got it.
Um, because Shin stands for like boy or like child or like descendant or like
Hmm.
yeah. So it was kind of them saying like, hey, we
It's like an homage.
you walk so we could run kind of stuff. And so we're gonna continue in your footsteps of you had this idea of disastrous, horrific monsters. And I'm really excited for you to see Shin Godzilla because those dudes like ideas of what that manifests as are really, really, really weird.
Hmm.
Like compared to any other movie in the franchise, Godzilla or otherwise, just like really weird. And I'm excited about it. So um
Hmm.
yeah. Let's see.
We have many films to
1956.
watch before then.
We have so many to watch. Well, kind of, except for Shin Godzilla is a origin one, so we'll get to it before.
Oh,
Unfortunately,
that's fair.
yeah,
Shortcuts.
yeah, yep. Shortcuts. So yeah, 1954, Godzilla. That movie, like, has gone on to be just like internationally known as one of the best monster movies of all time. And
Yeah.
it kicked off then what is still today after many, as we will see in the future, after many attempts to take themselves out. This franchise has continued to be one of the most successful like monster movie franchises on earth.
Yeah.
um Dude, there's some stuff in the 70s and 80s that's just like how did anybody ever give them money after this, like, is the
I'm
real
also looking
question.
forward to those, you know? I'll watch anything once, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
um so for I
1956?
don't
Huh? Huh?
Yeah, 1956. I don't know. Maybe you did some research on the trivia on this. I did not. But for whatever
Mm.
reason, in 1955, this guy named Edmund Goldman acquired the rights for Godzilla from Toho. And he like hired some other dudes and they essentially redid the movie Godzilla into a movie that they called Godzilla King of the Monsters. And it was like dubbed almost like redubbed almost entirely in English. There's like
Partially.
random scenes that are still in Japanese.
Yep.
And I whatever. And they move some stuff around so that they can take this dude that's played by Raymond Burr, who, spoiler alert, reprises his role in the movie Godzilla 1985 as Steve Martin, the reporter,
Okay.
but as like an old bitter man.
Mm.
And it's just as stupid as it was the first time.
All
uh,
right. What, you want my
and
thoughts? I like those
so,
ones.
well, I'm just kind of, I, just to kind of like set it up before I let you go on it. Like
Yeah.
it, basically what they did then is so they cut up the film, they alter it, they move some stuff around so that they can put in this dude Raymond Burr, who's playing a character named Steve Martin, who's like supposed to be basically a reporter from the United States of America, cheeseburger bang bang USA America, of like, here's
Yep.
what's really happening over here, and blah, 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 like just kind of like dictating into something the whole time, like a little tape machine.
Yep.
And they like hired these like Japanese actors that kind of looked like the original actors from the film, and only like shot the back of their head, and like
Yep.
made it look like this dude was, part of the original film. Um, and they just like, to me, literally all they did was they they took out the somber tension by adding constant narration, and
Yep.
they took a whole bunch of the unused like destruction footage of Godzilla just tearing stuff apart at random times and threw more of it in because, again, cheeseburger bang bang USA America, right? Like, and it's interesting to me how much that stands out as like that's basically what they did to Americanize it. But then you look at what were the popular films that year, and it's like nothing is even close to that. And that's kind of why I was mentioning that before. It's just like the Ten Commandments and like Around the World in 80 Days, and like War and Peace maybe. Um
Mm-hmm.
but just, yeah, it's just kind of wild to me. Well, I guess like Moby Dick came out that year. I guess it just is like what was really popular is different than what came out in general.
Could never make it through that book.
The Creature Walks Among Us. Dude, yeah, I've heard so many people talk about Moby Dick and how it is like really, really hard to get through.
Hmm.
What else came out that year? I want to scroll through
Yeah,
here and I want to see
it's
like The Day
interesting.
the Earth Stood Still or something. Naked Gun, is that is that James Bond?
Naked Gun is the first movie.
The first movie in James Bond?
No, it's like a silly movie.
Oh,
Farce movie.
okay. Oh, farce movie.
It's what's his name? What is his name?
Oh, from
Oh, I'm talking
like
about
Monty
the
Python?
the Leslie Nielsen movies. You're
Yeah.
talking about earlier.
Yeah, this is like
So
50, the 50s, 56.
yeah,
Anyways,
not the same thing. Anyways,
so
tangent.
yeah, they bought the rights to this, they Americanized it, put it out, and then it got an international release. And it worked
Yeah.
in becoming like it what's really interesting to me is that version of Godzilla King of the Monsters, the Americanized USA America like version, is what got an international release and what made it the hit that it is.
Right.
I never knew that, which is very interesting to me, that like to know now America's relationship with Godzilla and how long it has been a thing and how much it actually kind of has influenced the franchise in a way that, oh man, I don't want to spoil it. Just when we get to watching Shin Godzilla, I'm going to make a note of this, but somebody remind me, like show notes, something, Descript, somebody remind me to talk about the whole like USA holding Japan's hand as if they're a child dynamic.
Mm.
Yeah. It's interesting.
There's a bit of that in the 2014 film too.
Exactly. Yeah. That comes
It's
up
definitely
as
a
a
thing.
theme. Yeah, through the whole series, but it is especially prevalent in Shin Godzilla. I don't think that gives anything away. That's the theme that they chose to kind of spin on, amongst others. Holding Japan.
Yeah. So I like just watched this film.
Yeah, so you just watched Godzilla King of the Monsters,
Literally just. So it's
like
fresh in
10
my
minutes
head.
before we started recording this, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And
So go.
I expected it to be tough, but not this tough. This is so rough, man. I get what they were trying to do, but they didn't even like succeed at what they were trying to do, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah.
Like just a complete mess.
If I could interject, I didn't finish the thought that I
Sure.
meant to. It was just like this version is the one that got international release and made it so popular, but I
A
think
lot of
the
people
only
grew up on
reason
this one.
I think the only reason that worked is because the original 1954 version did not leave Japan until 2004.
Yeah.
Nobody, unless you went to Japan and bought a copy of it and put it in, like, but like 2004 was when it finally kind of got on the internet, it seems like.
Totally.
Which is crazy. And I think is part of why it makes, like, watching them back to back like this is what makes it rough, for sure. But it's just wild to me. Like, I really do wonder, what would the face of Godzilla's success look like today if the original were the international.
Oh yeah, dude, that'd be so different.
Anyways, continue.
Yeah, I mean, I wrote a little review. What I said was, imagine a documentary about the events of Godzilla 1954, where the entire original film is treated as B-roll. That's what this is. That's basically what they did. They started
shiny American actor talks over all.
Yeah, I mean, that's what they did. They set out to make a documentary about this thing that happened, and cast a character as the documentarian, the documenter, the guy getting the story to take back home to the heartland.
Well, and I found it interesting how much more that was played up in this cut versus, like, in the 1954 cut. There are the couple random scenes with the news reporters who are like, "Oh, we're up close. Oh gosh, he's turning towards us."
They're trying to get the footage at the last possible
and they're
second.
like, they're on the, this is it, everyone, goodbye. And they, like, as he tears the tower down, like,
oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So, like,
there's that, and then there's the American of, exactly, this, like, what's
really
happening
understand
here?
what they were setting out to do. And some of the shots were like the framing of it, or like the way they blocked out the positioning in the room, I think was pretty well designed, from like convincingly shooting scenes and inserting them into movie, such that you believe that they're like actually there. They did a decent job of that some of the time, not all the time.
Yeah.
It was just like, really, it felt hastily written, not well put together. And then you had the aspect of, like, I'd say about a third of the movie was just like original Japanese, and then his like Japanese sidekick character would just like interpret and tell them what they were saying.
Yeah.
And then the other 2/3 of the film are just like straight up dubbed. And I'm like, who made this decision? Like, pick one. What the heck is this?
Yeah, for real.
Yeah. And
well, okay, so that's a really great point. The whole, like, hastily written, because the original didn't get a Japanese release until November of 1954.
Mm.
And Godzilla King of the Monsters came out in April of 1956, which means that they probably shot that in like a month, honestly. If you think about like how much turnaround time they would have needed to recut everything else that they were going to recut.
Mm.
Crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. I think another thing that contributed to it being bad was that pretty much everyone that they like cast, other than like, I mean, Raymond Burr was like kind of like archetypal 50s male leading character. Like he didn't seem too far different from like a lot of the male leading characters at the time. So that wasn't like terrible, but literally everyone else that they pulled in to like flesh out justifying him being in the movie could not act to save their life. It was just so bad.
Yeah.
It's just not believable. Really, 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 really cringe. Yeah, you just compare that with the original, which is like, such a somber, like serious, dramatic film. There was no drama in this film. It felt very like phoned in. I don't know. It's
Yeah.
impossible to not compare them.
Yeah. And again, and that's kind of what still like it blows my mind because, like, again, what would it look like if that version were never made? And just,
Mm.
yeah, I don't know. And like it blows my mind that they felt the need to like Americanize it like that. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But I do appreciate now. So you've seen 2014. We'll talk about this more then, and I think we're close to wrapping up here. But like, I appreciate that the people that are running things at Legendary Pictures, which are the people making the current, like they made that 2014 one that you've seen.
Mm.
They are. It is not just Legendary got the rights to Godzilla and they're doing their thing. It's like people from TOHO are working with them directly on these films. And
Mm.
they're like actively working on that universe version of Godzilla. And then at the same time now doing their own thing with -1 and moving forward in that. And there's this whole other like animated universe of stuff on Netflix that's really, really great. And like, yeah, it's cool to see Toho start to like. I think there was just a like Godzilla versus Superman comic, like printed comic that came out.
Really.
Yeah, so
Mm.
they just keep. It's cool to see them continue to find like stay true to the franchise, but grow into what like the modern generation of people consuming this stuff want.
Yeah. Um,
Do you have anything else
I
to
did
say?
pull up.
Yeah,
I did
go.
pull up the trivia for
Oh
the.
yeah, trivia.
Should
Shoot.
we call it remake? A lot of this trivia is just like stuff about the original film, but they did say um, they apparently maybe it was in the marketing or however they were marketing it. They were hyping up that Raymond Burr spent 2 months in Japan working on his scenes. And apparently, they just flat out lied because they shot his scenes in a studio in Hollywood in 6 days.
Really?
Literally everything, every appearance of it in the film, they did that in 6 days.
Wow. Yeah. Talk about phoned in.
Adds
Holy
up.
cow.
Adds up. Oh my god, yeah.
So I think that shows how strong the original film is. Honestly, now that I think about it a second, like they messed it up and it still became what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, a lot of this trivia is just trivia for the original film, but so I did notice this is just general Godzilla 1950 word trivia. There's a number of original actors that did get cameos in the 2014 film. So it'd be fun to like sort of draw attention to those characters when we get to that film.
Yeah.
Um, you know,
Are there any with
got a
like
couple.
are there any with like prominent roles or is it like just
I think it's just like little small
little
small
cameo kind of
things.
stuff? Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, Gosh, why am I blanking on his name? Little Stan Lee moments.
Yeah. Is it trying to remember who.
This is a certified Stan Lee moment.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I can't remember who. There was some. I was going through like the cast list, the original film, just to see, and someone, at least one or two of the characters did get a cameo. They probably were younger actors, given the time jump, but so it was fun.
It is fun. It's fun and like, yeah, just cool to think about just like how terrifying he looks and like just all,
Mm-hmm. It's the
yeah.
kind of thing you
Like,
want on a T-shirt, or you want like a tattoo of. You know what I mean?
yeah, for
Like it's
sure.
just gnarly.
Yeah. The eyes thing, I forgot to say something about that. You mentioned, I noticed because I've seen it in other movies, I never noticed it in this one, but when he does, I noticed it when I watched it yesterday, when he does his like heat ray, those eyes go all black. Like they go all black, pearly, like just all
Huh?
black, as if he's got like a shield or something. And then they go back to that like googly eyed,
I did not notice that.
like weird monster Jim Henson thing. Yeah. Cool.
Man,
Um, anything else?
I feel like it's a great intro episode of
Yeah.
just the ramblings of two insane men. You know
Hey, yeah. I mean, if you made it this far, and for some reason you would
why?
like,
I'm just kidding.
yeah,
You're still
again,
here.
I told you, if you started here, I'm
What are you doing
sorry.
with your life?
Hopefully you're
Go
on a road
outside.
trip and have just like been brain dead for the past 4 hours and it helped. Um,
Hopefully you're like on an anxiety run right now, and I just like needed something, you know.
if
And then
if
you're stuck with
you
us.
if you for some reason would like more of this, we have a Patreon and unedited versions of this show will be going up there. Uh, besides like some little cuts here and there, but in general, like just full out, no breaks, no cuts, no nothing. We'll be going up there, and I've got some ideas for like member special stuff as well, but $5 a month, and it just it makes it easier for us to do stuff like that. So patreon.com/, the one about Godzilla movies, link in our bio, link in the show notes for the show, like we're in your podcast player of choice, all the good stuff. If you're here on YouTube, I guess I'm going to be that guy and do the whole like and subscribe thing. I'm not going to tell you to smash anything. If anything, caress that like button, give the bell a
Gently,
little smooch, just a little, hey, hi.
maybe some light
Yeah.
spooning.
Just, yeah, spoon that subscribe button and we'll see you on the next one. Dude, we should figure out before we go, what is the next Godzilla? What's the next movie? The next origin movie?
That's a good question that I don't feel fully equipped to answer.
Wikipedia.
I can pull up the list of all of the movies that I have here. In terms of like origin movies, when is the next time? I mean, there's three or four different eras.
Yeah, there's like Showa era, Heisei, Millennium, Reiwa, American, Volcano. It's too many.
Is Return of Godzilla a reboot? 84.
I was
Everything
just
else looks like a combo.
Flex.
I mean, there's Son of Godzilla. 67. I mean, it features Godzilla in it, but is it an origin story? That I can't answer. You just look at the whole list on Flex and just like
Right.
thumbnails and just
Yeah, I'm trying to, but I'm looking at the Wikipedia as well. I'm going by, so we're going to go by eras because that's every time that Toho rebooted things.
okay.
So 54 we just did, 56 slash. So the first movie in the
84.
Heisei era is The Return of Godzilla.
Okay.
And then we're going to do the first in the Millennium era is Godzilla 2000 Millennium.
Okay. And are we not watching the 98 movie? It's not a
That
TOHO film,
one,
but
98, that's the one with
this is
Matthew Broderick.
Broderick.
That's an American one. That
Mhm.
I think we should make a member special. Uh
Okay.
and then we're gonna do it'll be
2014,
it'll be 2014,
2016.
and then Shin Godzilla, and then Godzilla minus one. Yeah, so the next movie is going to be 1984's The Return of Godzilla. This
Sick.
is the start of the Heisei era. There are one, two, three, four, yeah,
Versus.
basically like four eras of Godzilla, four reboots, five if you count the American Legendary reboot, which we'll get to eventually. But yeah, hey, thank you for listening. We talked about subscribing and all that. Patreon.com/. It's about Godzilla movies. Whatever. Link is in the show notes. I don't know. I haven't even made it yet, but I'm promoting it. So link is in the show notes. Well, I hope you enjoyed this. Do you have anything else to say, Bryan?
Gojira. I don't know.
Riveting. Thank you. Thank you so much. We'll see you on the next one. Bye.